My name is Sapphire Ambar, and I'm 28 years old. Even now, as I say that out loud, there's a strange tightness in my chest, like the age itself is a deadline I'm supposed to have met. 28 sounds like a woman who has her life together, who knows her place in the world, who doesn't pause in parking lots just to gather herself before going inside. But the truth is, I learned how to breathe around disappointment long before I ever learned to breathe for myself. And this story, it begins on one of those deceptively normal Saturdays, the kind where the house smelled like southern fried chicken, where my hair frizzed from the steam rising off the skillet, where I tried, again, to be seen in a family that looked right past me. I stood in my parents' kitchen, a grocery bag from Kroger, half emptied on the counter. The chicken sizzled in the cast iron skillet behind me, spitting tiny flecks of oil onto my forearm. My peach cobbler was already baking in the oven, filling the entire house with warm cinnamon, the way it always did. It was supposed to feel comforting, familiar, homey. It didn't. I wiped my palms on a towel, cleared my throat, and walked into the living room. Dad was exactly where he always was on Saturdays, planted on the couch, eyes glued to the Ohio State game. Nicole, my older sister, had her phone propped on the dining room table, live streaming about discounted sundresses for her online boutique. Her two daughters, 6 and 4, ran laps around the living room, shrieking with joy about a game only they understood. Mom was pretending to chase them, breathless, hair undone, smiling in that exhausted but happy way she always reserved for them. "Hey everyone," I began, feeling the familiar shakiness in my voice. "I have some news." Not one face turned toward me. My heart thumped once, hard, but I kept going. "I got promoted," I said. "They're transferring me to the Seattle office next month. I'm going to be senior clinical specialist." Dad's face didn't move. Mom caught my younger niece by the arm before she collided with a lamp. Nicole kept talking to her phone. "Yes, babes, link is in the bio. These sundresses are going fast." I stood there for 5 full seconds, waiting for anything. A glance, a nod, a delayed, "Oh, wow, congrats." Nothing. Just the TV, Nicole's influencer voice, and my niece's loud laughter. I swallowed and forced out a smile, even though something inside me sank like a stone in water. "Okay," I whispered to myself, "maybe later." I slipped back into the kitchen and checked the chicken, flipping each piece with careful movements. My hands shook slightly, and I told myself it was just from the heat of the skillet. When everything was ready, I called out, "Lunch is done!" Food always brought them running. Dad muted the TV. Nicole ended her live stream. The girls scrambled to the table like puppies hearing the rustle of a treat bag. I served everyone, passing plates around, the fried chicken golden and perfect, the cobbler cooling on the counter behind me. "So," I said again, lighter this time, "about my promotion." Nicole interrupted me with a gasp. "Oh my God, you guys, I made $2,400 today." She shoved her phone at Mom and Dad, beaming. "I swear, this boutique is going to blow up." Mom lit up like Christmas morning. Dad smiled for the first time all afternoon. "That's wonderful, honey," Mom gushed. "You're so talented." "What a businesswoman," Dad added proudly. For the next 10 minutes, they dissected Nicole's sales, her customer engagement, her potential expansion. They asked about shipping costs, vendor relationships, seasonal drops. I ate in silence. No one asked about my promotion. No one asked about Seattle. No one asked about anything involving me. Mom didn't even look at me when she said, "Sapphire, can you clean up what the girls spilled under the table and cut their chicken smaller? These pieces are too big." "Sure," I said quietly. I crouched under the table, wiping juice off the floor while the conversation above me hummed with excitement. Just not for me. I thought about last Christmas when I spent 4 days helping Nicole pack her boutique orders until my hands were raw. I thought about the week I took off work to babysit her daughters while she flew to Los Angeles for a fashion show. 2 sick kids, no sleep, no break, no thanks. I thought about how every time I asked for help, Mom said, "Nicole has kids, Sapphire. She needs more support. You have more free time." But I never actually had free time. I just had fewer excuses. After lunch, Nicole resumed her live stream. Dad turned the football back on. Mom took the girls to the backyard, and I cleaned the entire kitchen alone. When everything was spotless, I walked into the living room. "I'm heading out now." Mom gave me a distracted hug. Dad waved without looking away from the TV. Nicole didn't acknowledge me at all. I walked out of the house and into my Honda, feeling completely hollow, like I'd left my lungs inside and forgotten how to breathe. When I got back to my apartment, I sat on my couch, staring at the wall. Then I opened our family group chat, the crew. I typed slowly, Just wanted to officially let everyone know that I'm moving to Seattle on September 20th. I'll be busy packing these next couple of weeks. Love you all. I pressed send. One by one, their icons popped up. All three read it. No one replied. 20 minutes passed. Still nothing. Then Mom sent a photo of the girls eating the peach cobbler I'd baked. These angels enjoying Aunt Sapphire's delicious cobbler. Nicole followed with, "New record today, $1,600 in sales. I'm screaming." Mom replied with heart emojis. I put my phone face down and let the tears fall. Quiet, steady, unremarkable. The kind of crying you do when you realize you've been trying to prove your worth to people who decided long ago they didn't need to see it. That night, I pulled up apartment listings in Seattle. If I was going to disappear from their world, I might as well do it all the way. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of packing boxes, endless calls with moving companies, and coordinating the logistics of a new life. My apartment was slowly emptied out, its bare walls reflecting the hollowness that had settled inside me. Each cardboard box I taped shut felt like one more piece of my old life I was leaving behind, one more thing to forget about. But there was one thing I couldn't escape, the mounting weight of silence. Every time I checked my phone, I saw the family group chat buzzing with messages, none of which were directed at me. Nicole posted about a new line of dresses. Mom shared photos of the girls' latest antics, the usual noise, the usual demands. But no one asked about me. No one called to check how I was doing, not once. I had to stop myself from scrolling through it. But on the morning of September 20th, just as I was finalizing my last box, my phone rang. It was my mom. "Sapphire, I need you to come over on Saturday," she said, as though nothing had changed. No hello or how are you? No mention of the fact that I was leaving for Seattle that very day. I stared at the screen for a few moments, holding the phone in my hand. A bitter laugh bubbled up in my throat, but I swallowed it. "Mom, I'm leaving for Seattle today," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What do you mean leaving?" she asked, voice sharp now. "You never mentioned anything about this. What's going on, Sapphire? We need you here this weekend. Nicole needs help with the girls. I have a doctor's appointment, and I can't watch them." I blinked, the nerve in my chest tightening. "Mom, I sent a message in the family chat 2 weeks ago. I'm moving to Seattle for the promotion. I told you. I told all of you." There was a long silence, then, "Oh, well, we'll talk about this later. I have to go." The phone clicked off before I could respond. I stood there for a moment, letting the reality of it sink in. She didn't care. She didn't acknowledge it. Not a single word of congratulations, not even a basic question of how I was feeling. She just assumed I'd drop everything, as I always had. I closed my eyes and set my phone down, ignoring the weight that threatened to press down on my chest. By the time I arrived at the airport, I was already numb. The hustle of the terminal, the sound of wheels on the floor, the rushed voices and announcements, it all felt distant. I tried not to think about my family, not about the calls that went unanswered, not about how they only seemed to notice me when they needed something. My flight was scheduled for early evening. I boarded, settled into my seat by the window, and looked out at the expanse of the runway. I thought about the last couple of years, how I'd lived in the shadow of their needs, always there, always the one who picked up the slack, always the helper, always the invisible one. I'd been their unpaid caretaker, their free babysitter, their free cook, and their backup plan when things fell apart. And the moment I moved away, the moment I stopped being useful, I became invisible. I could feel it in my bones, the truth I'd known for years. To them, I was just a resource. My stomach twisted, but I kept my gaze on the window. No matter how much I wanted to look back, I couldn't. The flight was long, but uneventful. I found myself distracted by the thought of starting over, of a place where I wasn't just the family fixer. When I landed in Seattle, the air was different, cooler, fresher. It felt like the city was welcoming me in a way my family never had. I checked into a small, furnished apartment in Capitol Hill, a temporary place where I could settle in until I found something permanent. It wasn't glamorous, but it was clean. It was mine, no one else's. I spent the next few days setting up the apartment, getting to know the neighborhood. I explored Pike Place Market, found a coffee shop I liked, and started figuring out what my new routine would look like. I went to the office the following Monday and met my new coworkers. Everything felt fresh. Nothing was expected of me here. I wasn't the sister who babysat or the daughter who took care of everyone. I was just Sapphire. And for the first time in a long time, I felt the weight of my own name. It wasn't until my second week in Seattle that the family started calling again. I was in the middle of an important project at work when my phone buzzed. I glanced at it quickly and saw the familiar group chat light up. Mom, we miss you so much, Sapphire. It's been so long. We'd love to come visit you sometime. Let us know if you're free this weekend. Nicole, OMG, how's the move going? We should come out there. Nicole's got a weekend off. Let's go see Seattle. I stared at the messages, feeling the bitter irony of it all. For months, I hadn't heard a word. Now that I had a condo, a boyfriend, a life they couldn't control, suddenly they missed me. I tossed my phone back down on the desk. They weren't interested in me. They were interested in my life now that it seemed successful. They wanted to see my condo. They wanted to be part of my story now that it was nice. I couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity of it all. The message from Mom didn't ask how I was doing. It didn't ask about my new job. It just asked if I was free to entertain them. And then, just as I was about to turn my phone off, another text came through. This one from Nicole. Your condo looks amazing. We can't believe how well you're doing. It was the same old pattern. When I was just Sapphire, helpful, invisible, always there, they barely acknowledged me. But now, when they saw a bit of success, suddenly I was worth noticing. I stared at the message for a moment before I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I wasn't going to let them pull me back into their world. I wasn't going to play the part of the fixer anymore. I had already given them so much of me, and I wasn't going to waste another second pretending that this time would be different. The following weeks were a blur of work, apartment hunting, and settling into my new routine. I was finally beginning to feel the comfort of distance, of living in a place where no one knew me as the helper, the fixer, the one who dropped everything for everyone else. It felt like freedom. For the first time in years, I could breathe. But of course, nothing lasts forever. The phone calls from my family grew more frequent, more insistent. Each message carried a hint of desperation, of something I couldn't quite put my finger on. The text messages, the photos of my nieces, the inquiries about my new life, all of it felt like a slow, creeping reminder of who they thought I was and what they thought I was supposed to do for them. Then, one evening, as I was returning from work, my phone rang. It was my mom. Sweetie, I've been thinking, she started, her voice dripping with that fake sweetness she always used when she needed something. Nicole is really struggling. Her boutique business is not doing as well as we thought, and now she's in quite a bit of debt. You know, with the rent on the store and all that, we're really, really worried. I sat down on the couch, resisting the urge to roll my eyes. I knew where this was going. I was wondering, she continued, if you could help her out. Maybe give her a little financial support. I know you've got that promotion, and with your bonus and everything, you must be doing well. I let her words hang in the air, my mind racing. So this was it. This was why they'd suddenly started texting me again, because they needed money. Mom, I said, trying to keep my voice steady, I just got here. I've only been in Seattle for a few weeks. I'm still getting settled in. I can't just hand over money. You know that. Her voice grew sharp, that hint of entitlement creeping through. But you have a good job, Sapphire. You can help her out. We've already spent so much helping Nicole, and now she's in a bad situation. We can't keep doing this for her. You know how hard she's worked. And she has kids, Sapphire. That last line, the one that always seemed to be the trump card, hit me like a punch to the gut. Every time there was a crisis, Nicole's kids became the excuse, as if their presence made her struggles more valid than mine, as if their demands meant I owed more than I had already given. I stood up from the couch, pacing around the room. I understand that she's struggling, but I've been struggling too. I've been the one doing all the heavy lifting in this family for years, and nobody even noticed when I left. Now, suddenly, you need me to rescue her? There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and for a moment, I thought she might actually listen. But then the words came, smooth and practiced, the way she always spoke when she was trying to guilt-trip me. You're not being fair, Sapphire. We're your family. Don't you think it's time to help out? You don't need a big place like this condo. You can always move in with Nathan. He has money, right? You can afford to share a little, can't you? I froze. The mention of Nathan, my boyfriend, felt like a slap. He didn't know my family well, not like I did. And this was not his responsibility. He wasn't part of this mess. I'm not having this conversation with you, I said, my voice cold and firm. This is not about what I can afford. This is about what I'm willing to give, and I'm not giving anything to Nicole. I'm done with that. Mom's tone shifted, becoming more pleading. Sapphire, honey, don't you want to help your sister? Don't you care about us? You've changed. You don't even care about family anymore. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Of course, They'd turn it back on me. Of course, I was the one being unreasonable, but for the first time in my life, I didn't care. No, I said, my voice steady. You don't get to make me feel guilty for choosing myself. I'm done being the one who picks up the pieces for everyone else while I'm ignored when I need something. I've given enough, and I'm not doing it anymore. The silence on the other end was deafening. Then my mom said, You're being selfish, Sapphire. You're choosing money over family. You're being cold. I bit my lip to hold back the anger bubbling up inside me. No, Mom, I'm choosing myself, and that's something I've never done before. I hung up without waiting for her response. My heart was pounding in my chest, but I didn't feel the familiar guilt that usually followed. I felt something else, relief. For the first time in years, I had said no, and it felt good. A few days later, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a text from Nicole. Nicole, I don't know why you're acting like this. We're family, Sapphire. You're so selfish. We all need you, and you're just abandoning us. I read the message 3 times, each word digging deeper into the anger I'd been suppressing for years. But this time, instead of responding with my usual apology, I let the words sink in, and I realized something. I didn't need to apologize anymore, so I didn't respond. I just set my phone down and walked away from it, towards my future, towards a life where I wasn't anyone's fallback. I was Sapphire Ambar, and that had to be enough. For a while, things felt quiet, not peaceful, because peace is something you choose. This was the kind of quiet that creeps in after a storm, when you know the wind isn't done with you yet. I knew my family. They weren't the type to disappear quietly, unless it was about me and my accomplishments. I felt it in my bones. Something was coming. And I was right. It happened 3 weeks after Aunt Beverly posted the photo of my condo on Facebook. That single photo of my clean living room, my minimalist decor, the view from my window, went farther than anything I had ever said or done in the last 2 years. Suddenly, relatives I barely remembered were commenting, asking questions, wanting details. I ignored most of it, but then came the one comment I couldn't unsee. My mother commented under the photo, "So proud of our Sapphire. She's always been our superstar." I almost choked on my coffee. Our superstar? The same daughter they hadn't called, texted, or acknowledged for 2 entire years? I closed the app, but my phone buzzed again. A message from Aunt Beverly. It was a screenshot from the family group chat I wasn't in anymore. Nicole had written, "Did you guys see Beverly's post? Sapphire's condo looks expensive. And her boyfriend owns a business? We should find out how much she makes. She might be able to help us out now." Mom replied, "Good idea, I'll reach out." There it was, the real reason, the actual reason. Not love, not concern, not family, money. I stared at the screenshot for a long moment, feeling a cold, hollow ache bloom in my chest, right before it hardened. When the first text came an hour later, I almost didn't open it. "Mom, Sapphire, honey, your father and I miss you so much." Then came another. "Nicole, OMG, your condo looks amazing. I'm so happy for you." And then, "Mom, we'd love to visit you. Actually, we already bought plane tickets. We'll arrive tomorrow at noon. Me, Dad, Nicole, and the girls. Can't wait to see you." I froze. They had already bought tickets. They had already made the decision. They were arriving in less than 24 hours. No permission, no asking if I was free, no humanity. I stared at the messages like they were written in another language. That's when I called Nathan. He answered on the second ring, voice warm, familiar. Just hearing him breathe steadied me. "My family is coming to Seattle tomorrow," I said, pacing my living room. "They bought plane tickets. They didn't ask. They didn't check my schedule. They just decided." Nathan was silent for a few seconds. Then he said gently, "They're not coming for you, Sapphire. They're coming for what they think you can give them." "I know." "Do you want me to stay with you tomorrow?" "No," I said, though I wished I could say yes. "I think I need to do this alone." "Then call me if anything happens. I mean it." "I will." The next morning, I cleaned the condo, not because I wanted to impress them, but because I needed to feel in control of something. Around noon, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, the entire weight of my childhood seemed to push itself into my living room. Mom rushed forward first, wrapping me in an overly tight hug, the kind she gave people she wanted to guilt trip. "Oh, Sapphire, you look so thin. Are you eating? Are you sleeping? You look stressed. Do you need help with your laundry?" I pulled back. "I'm fine, Mom." Dad stepped in with a bakery box. "We brought your favorite, lemon pound cake." Except my favorite was red velvet, but okay. Nicole entered next, sunglasses on top of her head, the girls tugging at her hands as they immediately began running around my condo like it was a jungle gym. The older one grabbed a delicate glass sculpture Nathan gave me. My heartbeat spiked. "Please put that back," I said firmly. She giggled and ran toward the kitchen with it. "Put it back," I repeated, louder now. Nicole scoffed. "Relax, Sapphire. They're just kids." Before I could answer, the younger one knocked over a vase of flowers, spilling water across the floor. I grabbed towels, cleaned the mess, took 2 books off my shelf, and handed them to the girls. "You're reading? On the couch, no more running." The room went still. Mom stared at me. "You've changed." Dad stood awkwardly near the TV, then turned it on without asking. Nicole scanned the room, her eyes catching every detail, my furniture, my artwork, the view. "So," she said casually, "this place must be expensive. How much was your down payment?" Dad chimed in. "Yeah, and what's the mortgage like?" My brows furrowed. "That's private." Mom stepped forward. "We're just asking, honey. You're doing so well. We're curious." "No," I said. "You're not curious. You're fishing." Silence. Mom's smile faltered. Dad muted the TV. Nicole crossed her arms. "Why are you really here?" I asked. Mom blinked, feigning innocence. "We missed you, sweetie." "You missed me?" I asked, voice steady. "Or you missed what I could do for you?" Nicole's jaw clenched. "That's not fair." "No," I said. "What's not fair is pretending you care. What's not fair is ignoring me for years, then showing up because you saw a picture of my condo." Mom stepped forward, her voice dropping into that soft, manipulative tone I knew too well. "We need to talk to you about something important." There it was. The moment the mask slipped, Nicole's lip trembled, and she gave a dramatic sigh. "I had to close the boutique," she said. "The rent was too high. The location was terrible." Mom chimed in. "We invested everything into helping her. Our retirement savings are gone." Dad looked away. Nicole continued, "I'm $45,000 in debt. I don't know what else to do." Mom's eyes softened into a pleading expression. "We thought maybe, since you're doing so well, you could help her." I just stared at them. Mom stepped closer. "You could sell this condo," she said gently. "Move in with Nathan. You don't need a place this big. And he has money. He'd understand." Something inside me snapped so quietly, it almost felt like nothing at all. But everything changed. I inhaled once slowly, then I spoke. "You need to leave." Mom's head jerked back. "What?" "You need to leave, all of you." "We flew all the way here," Nicole said, outraged. "I didn't invite you." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "You're choosing money over family." "No," I said. "I'm choosing myself, for the first time in my life." The girls stood up, confused. Dad gathered their bags. Nicole muttered something under her breath. Mom cried silently. They left without another word. I closed the door behind them and didn't move for a long time. My hands were shaking. But I wasn't crying. Not anymore. It was only after they left that the silence truly settled in. The kind of silence that fills a room and demands your attention. The kind where you know everything has changed, but you don't yet know what that change will feel like. I stood in the middle of my condo, the echoes of my family's footsteps still hanging in the air. Their absence was deafening. I had never felt more alone or more liberated. I took a deep breath, closed my eyes, and let the weight of the last few years fall away. For the first time in a long time, I was not Sapphire, the helper. Not Sapphire, the one who was always needed, always there. I was just Sapphire Ambar, and that was all I needed to be. The next few days were filled with more packing, more sorting, through the remnants of a life I had spent too many years living for other people. My apartment began to feel more like home, more like the sanctuary I had never given myself permission to create before. I found old photographs, some I hadn't looked at in years, reminders of who I had been before everyone else's needs overshadowed mine. I pulled a photo from a box in the back of my closet, one from high school graduation. I was standing with a group of friends, smiling, carefree, before the weight of family expectations had come crashing down. I placed the photo on the kitchen counter and just stared at it for a moment, remembering a version of myself I hadn't seen in so long. Then I smiled. For the first time in ages, I was starting to remember what it felt like to just live for myself. Nathan was the first person I called, after I closed the door on my family. I didn't know what to say at first. I just needed to hear a voice that wasn't tied to my family's drama, someone who actually cared about me, not what I could do for them. "Hey," I said softly when he answered. "I need to talk." "Of course, Sapphire. What's going on?" I told him everything. The visit, the guilt trip, the demands, the way my family had shown up, expecting to be welcomed like nothing had ever changed. I didn't hold back. I needed to get it all out. And he listened without interruption, like he always did. He didn't try to fix it or give me advice. He just heard me. When I finished, there was a long silence on the other end. You okay? He finally asked. I took a shaky breath. Yeah, I'm okay. I think I'm just done. Done with them? Done with letting them use me. Done with waiting for them to notice me for me instead of what I can do for them. I've been invisible for so long, Nathan, but not anymore. He was quiet for a beat, then said, You deserve to be seen, Sapphire. All of you. Not just what you can give. I know. There was a pause, then he added, And you deserve to be happy. Just you, not with all the baggage. I smiled at that, feeling something in my chest loosen. Nathan had a way of making me feel heard, validated, without giving me a lecture. He let me be. I've been thinking, he continued. I know it's soon, but maybe you should come up to the cabin this weekend, just to get away for a bit. You, me, Cooper. No drama. Just quiet. What do you think? I let the idea roll around in my mind. A weekend with him, away from the noise, away from everything. I needed it more than I realized. I think I'd like that, I said, finally feeling like the weight was lifting, even if just a little. I'll pack my bags. The weekend at Nathan's cabin was everything I needed. The air was crisp and clean, and for 2 whole days, I didn't think about my family, my past, or the pressure to fix everything for everyone else. I didn't have to answer to anyone but myself. Nathan and I spent the time talking, reading, hiking through the forest with Cooper, and just being. I didn't have to carry the weight of everyone else's expectations on my shoulders. I didn't have to pretend. It was peaceful. It was mine. As we sat by the fireplace on that first night, sipping wine and letting the warmth of the fire sink into our bones, I found myself thinking about the future, my future. What do you think? I asked quietly. About everything I've been through, about them. Nathan reached over and took my hand in his thumb brushing lightly over my knuckles. I think you've been carrying their weight for far too long, and I think you finally realized that you don't have to anymore. You deserve to put yourself first. I looked up at him, grateful for his support, for his understanding. His presence was a gentle reminder that, for the first time, I wasn't alone in this. As the weekend came to a close, I felt something stir deep within me, a sense of purpose, of strength I hadn't known I was capable of before. I didn't need my family to validate me. I didn't need them to acknowledge my worth. I had already done that, for myself. When I got back to my apartment, I sat down and texted my mom. It wasn't a demand for reconciliation. It wasn't a long explanation. It was simply this. I'm choosing to live my life on my terms now. I hope you can understand that. I sent it, and then I turned my phone off. Days passed. The silence was still there, but it was a different kind of silence now. It wasn't the silence of being ignored, of being forgotten. It was the silence of self-acceptance, of knowing that I was enough, just as I was. I didn't hear back from them, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't need to. 2 years passed. 2 entire years without a single call, message, or holiday greeting from my family. And on paper, that sounds heartbreaking, tragic even. But in reality, it felt like learning how to breathe again. Seattle became my home in ways I never expected. I threw myself into work and thrived. I made friends, real friends, ones who liked me for me, not because of what I could do for them. I explored the city, learned its rhythms, found favorite coffee shops, bookstores, hidden parks. And slowly, so slowly, I didn't notice it at first. The ache that used to sit heavy in my chest began to fade. In those 2 years, I didn't reach out to my family, not once, but they didn't reach out either. Not for birthdays, not for holidays, not to ask how I was doing, how I was settling in, how my new life was unfolding. Their silence was confirmation of what I'd known deep down my entire life. I had never mattered unless I was filling a role they needed. And if I wasn't doing that, I may as well have never existed. But Seattle gave me something they never did, a chance to become a whole person. My career soared, first a promotion to lead clinical specialist, then to regional manager. My salary nearly doubled, and for the first time, I felt proud of myself without needing someone else's approval. A year after moving, I bought my condo in Queen Anne. 2 bedrooms, huge windows, a balcony overlooking the water. It was everything I'd ever imagined having, but never believed I deserved. It was mine, entirely beautifully mine. And then came Cooper, a golden retriever with too much energy, a goofy smile, and a habit of sleeping on my feet whenever I worked from home. He filled the condo with joy and laughter, something my childhood home never had. Cooper became my shadow, my comfort, my constant companion. And somehow he helped heal wounds I didn't even know I still carried. 3 months before everything changed, I met Nathan. It was ridiculous how cliché it was. We met at the dog park. Cooper barreled into a chocolate lab named Moose, knocking him over like bowling pins, and I apologized for all of 30 seconds before Nathan laughed and introduced himself. We went for coffee, then dinner, then more dinners. He asked questions about my life no one had ever cared to ask. He listened like the world paused for my words. He didn't expect anything of me. No favors, no emotional labor, no rescue missions. With him, I was allowed to exist without being useful. I didn't have to earn affection. I didn't have to perform. I could just be. And that felt revolutionary. Before I knew it, we were dating, and then he became home in a way my family never had. But then, because life always has a twisted sense of timing, Aunt Beverly visited. Of all the people in my family, Beverly was the only one who'd ever truly seen me. Growing up, she'd slip me extra dessert, tell me stories, remind me that being quiet didn't make me weak. As an adult, she was the only one who reached out after I moved. So when she asked to visit Seattle, I didn't hesitate. She stepped into my condo, eyes wide. "Oh, Sapphire, this is gorgeous. You've made such a beautiful life." For the first time, hearing those words didn't sting. It didn't feel like a backhanded compliment. It felt like truth spoken by someone who meant it. We had lunch, caught up, laughed the way I never laughed with my own parents. Before she left, she asked if she could take a photo of my living room, just to brag to my colleagues about my niece living her best life in Seattle. I said yes. I thought nothing of it. But later that evening, she posted the photo on Facebook, and everything spiraled. I saw the post first. The caption read, "Visiting my niece Sapphire in her beautiful Seattle home. So proud of her. She's built a wonderful life." I smiled. For once, attention didn't feel like a spotlight. It felt warm. Family I barely remembered commented. Questions, compliments, curiosity. But then came the comment that made my jaw clench. My mother wrote, "So happy for our Sapphire. We're so proud of everything she's accomplished." Like she'd played any part in it. I closed the app. I didn't want that fake affection near me. But the universe wasn't done yet. My phone buzzed with a message from Beverly. A screenshot. A screenshot from the family group chat, the one I wasn't in anymore. The text threads were unmistakable. "Nicole, did you see Beverly's post? Sapphire's condo looks dollars, and that boyfriend of hers owns a business. We should find out her financial situation. She might be able to help us now." "Mom, good idea. I'll reach out to her." I didn't blink. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel surprised. All I felt was confirmation. Cold, sharp, and strangely clarifying. Of course that was why they suddenly cared. Not because they missed me, not because they wanted to rebuild, not because they realized they'd hurt me, because they wanted something. I put my phone face down, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. I felt done. It had been 2 days since the last message came through from my mom, and I hadn't responded. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just tired. The phone sat on the kitchen counter, buzzing every so often with another message or email, but I left it untouched. I could feel my family's expectations pulling at me, like an old, familiar weight trying to drag me back into their world, the world where I was always the one to solve their problems, fix their mistakes, carry their burdens. But not anymore. I'd spent so long trying to be who they wanted me to be, trying to prove myself to them, trying to fill the role they handed me, even when it suffocated me. And for what? For a few words of praise? For a pat on the back after years of being invisible? No, I was done. Nathan knew all of this. He knew my family dynamics, knew how tangled they were in my mind. He'd listened to me talk about it for hours on end, and he never judged, never tried to fix it. He just listened. And when I was done, he'd ask simple questions, thoughtful questions, questions that made me rethink my choices, but not in a way that made me second-guess myself. "You've been through a lot, Sapphire," he said one night when we were lying in bed, Cooper sprawled out between us. "You've learned to survive by being what they need you to be, but maybe it's time to learn to live for yourself. You don't owe them anything anymore." His words settled in me like something that had been missing for years. Maybe he was right. Maybe it was time to stop surviving and start living. The next morning, I woke up early, before the sun had even fully risen. I made coffee and sat in front of the large windows, watching the sky shift from gray to blue, thinking about the life I had built for myself, without them. I wasn't just surviving, I was thriving. Nathan had given me the space to heal. Seattle had given me a place to grow. And now it was my turn to take ownership of the choices I'd made. So I did something I never thought I would. I texted my mom. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't an invitation for reconciliation. It wasn't a demand for an apology either. It was a simple message that laid everything bare. I'm choosing to live my life on my terms now. I'm not going to keep bending over backwards for you and Nicole. I've already given more than I ever received, and I'm done. I'm not asking for your approval or your validation anymore. I hope you can understand that. I pressed send, and then I set my phone down and walked away. The silence that followed wasn't the usual hollow kind. It was a silence I could fill with my own voice. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I wasn't waiting for permission anymore. Not from them, not from anyone. I wasn't waiting for someone to see my worth. I wasn't waiting for someone to tell me I mattered. I knew I mattered. 2 days later, I got a call from my mom. I almost didn't pick up, but something inside me told me I needed to. "Hi, Sapphire," she said, her voice smaller than I had ever heard it. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said." My heart thudded in my chest, but I kept quiet, waiting for her to continue. We've been terrible. I didn't realize how much I was asking of you, how much I took you for granted. You were always there, always doing things for everyone else, but I never really saw you. I'm sorry. We're sorry." Her apology wasn't what I'd expected. It wasn't grand or dramatic. It was simple, honest. And it was the first time in my life I realized she wasn't just apologizing for me. She was apologizing for her own role in all of this. "I've done things I regret," she continued, her voice cracking. "But I understand now. I see you, Sapphire, and I respect your decision." I sat there for a moment, letting her words wash over me. This wasn't a magic fix. It wasn't the fairy tale reunion I had sometimes dreamed about in my quieter moments. But it was something I needed. It was the first step toward real healing. "I'm glad you see it, Mom," I said softly, "but I need to keep moving forward. I need to do this for me." She paused, and I could hear her breathing on the other end of the line, deep and steady. "I understand, sweetheart. We'll give you space. And if you ever want to talk, I'll be here." I closed my eyes, feeling the weight that had clung to me for so long begin to lift. "Thank you," I said, my voice steady. "That means a lot." We didn't say much more after that, but it was enough. Over the next few months, I slowly began to rebuild the pieces of my life that I had left behind. I didn't let my family's expectations define me anymore. I didn't let their silence or their demands shape my identity. I was Sapphire Ambar, and that was more than enough. Nathan and I started planning our future. We talked about moving in together, about getting a dog. Cooper needed a friend. We talked about the kind of life we wanted, one that was built on respect, understanding, and mutual love. My family, for all their apologies, still had their own battles to fight. But for the first time in years, I wasn't carrying their weight, and that was something I could hold on to. I'd chosen to put myself first, and I wasn't going back.